howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That technology aspect of it is very important. And they are crafty, so you have to be crafty. And with the regular game cams that Stephen and William have down there, they've also gotten creative and, placed cameras in brush piles and hidden them in different places. And I thought that was great too.
Yeah, put an obvious camera out and then put a hidden camera watching the obvious camera for when they come and rip it off the tree and throw it away. You catch them doing that.
Got it. That camera that I showed at the first of our deal here, man. Like I said, we had a spy camera on it, and so with this camera being torn up, I had a spy camera taking this, and so I've actually got a picture of another 10-footer that's helping to tear up this camera, standing there about 15 foot on the other side of the berm line there. And then there's four other, the smaller, and we call them devil monkeys. They may be a possible species of Bigfoot, but they're about 5 to 6 feet tall. There's four others in the brush, and they're so insignificant compared to this big one here that you hardly even notice them. You have to look, but they're staying from this creature. They're staying probably 5 to 10 feet away, just to be sure that they don't get too close in case he turns some of that rant towards them. So it's really funny of the story that's not being told here, why these other beings are staying so far away from where this big 10.5-footer is. So there's a lot more to the story, that we're trying to figure out. Why do they run together, but why do they still keep that buffer line so far between the two there?
Huh.
There is something about Ground Zero that I will say that I didn't like, and that's the snakes. Could have done without the snakes.
Yeah, we ain't got no snakes here, just grizzlies, mountain lions, and timber wolves. That's it.
Yeah. I had to actually walk directly behind William in several areas there due to the snake issue. So he was kind of clearing the path and making sure that no copperheads or timber rattlers or anything else was going to, take a shot at my shins. But I also saw where their gifting area is and the different trail cam areas that they have. And again, that whole place, that the thickness of the trees, and anything could be back there, anything.
And two, the timing, like Daniel mentioned there. Man, right now it's October, I don't know, like 17th, 18th, 19th, something like that. Man, this is a prime month for getting out there and doing Sasquatch Bigfoot research. They're very aggressive, not aggressive, but they're very active right now. And so from here until November, December, when all your deer hunters are down here, man, well, they're like nature's cleanup guys of the forest, man. So many guys out there that get buck fever, they shoot, they wound a deer, they wound some other kind of animal. Well, man, that's just, Bigfoot goes through and cleans those up as far as it goes. And then we started out there about the end of February. And February, March, and April tend to be the active months. And of course, there's only just a few months between now and then. So that's one reason I'm just really excited right now, because this next week, once I get through a deer season down here, then I'm gonna get to do some Bigfoot research. And man, like I said, we went last week there, a friend of mine and I. And we actually found where one had actually taken, looks like his fingernail, and drawn on the top of a stump, which we know that they actually do. And then also we found a real nice track that was through there, even being as dry as what, man, we've been through drought, down here, man. It's dry as dust, but we found a good track even with that. So how big and heavy that had to be for it to even leave a track in this kind of terrain like this. But man, I'm excited for that right there. It's going to be good. And that's another thing Daniel did. He came down during the time when our Bigfoot down here were really, more active, because not whether it's due to their having their own babies, whether it's due to the deer having their babies, or whether because the deer being running from the hunters that are down here. Man, when you're out there at the right time, that's something that you kind of have to think on there. And when you're going to get there, your opportunity to having more sightings than any, and certainly in Arkansas, like I said, it's those months that I mentioned. But it kind of, I think it probably maybe goes a little bit later the farther north that you get as it warms up, but it may not. I haven't got to research that far up there yet, But Alaska, they say they have the sightings, all year long, even with the tracks to the snow and things like that. I have some friends down here that actually had some tracks to the snow. 2 years ago, we had that big giant snowstorm in Valentine's Day, and they've actually got 2 sets of Bigfoot tracks walking across their property, man. Right there, walking across the county road. Coincidentally, where I was a UPS man, I had actually seen a Bigfoot walk right here across this road and onto their trail, and they went there. We didn't even know each other at the time, and at the same place, and they've got the Bigfoot tracks, 2 sets of tracks going right through there. So again, like I said, time of year, there's one of my things that I find, and it's the same time next year. They're going to do about the same time. So I had lost my notebook, so I'm having to keep another notebook, but hopefully I'll learn again things that I might have forgotten. Keeping a notebook of things that have happened to you, because our memory's faulty. Your day may be different, or maybe if your time, like if it's a different weather change or something to make them where they're more aggressive, or something that could have been a key or a catalyst to all your sightings. So again, that's something I had to remind myself of. I'm doing a new not scrapbook there, but a new notebook there to keep records of the things that I've learned. And so that's something too that would be a good tip.
Hey,
yeah.
I got one for you, William. If you don't bring them Snicker bars, it makes them aggressive.
Well, that's again, like I was telling Robin today, Robin McRae there, I had sent a picture of all this. It's a whole troop of juveniles of that camera there, the last picture that I got there. And,
the final picture.
Yeah, and I didn't leave any Snickers bars for them. And so the next thing I know, I go up there to find my camera, and my camera's gone. I said, well, it's trick or treat, and kids are going to be kids, So I didn't treat them, so they tricked me. So they've got my camera somewhere. Maybe I'll get it ransomed back from that. But it is. I made them up with Snickers bars. They enjoy the candy bars like that, like we all do, man. I mean, they're sometimes they're big kids at heart. We're their entertainment, the things they'll do to amuse themselves and amuse us. It would you would think we were lying if it wasn't being reported by so many other people besides us.
Actually, one of my favorite game cam pics ever came from Australia, of all places. And somebody had smart researcher had a game cam set up on a tree across the river. There's a little break in the tree line, and you can see this trail going through the woods. And that's the only place you can see it, from across the river, where he's got this camera on this tree. So anything that goes down that trail is going to trigger the camera, and it'll catch it for a split second. So when he comes back out there to check his game cam, it's smashed and it's laying on the ground, and there's a big heavy log there. So he takes the game cam back and he pulls out the SD card. And the last 2 pictures, the second to the last picture, shows what looks like a yowie walking in between the trees on the other side of the river, and it's got a big ass heavy log in its hand, back like this. And then the last picture shows the log flying through the air toward the game cam.
Me and Steve got some of those there from what we call, camera caper number 3, where they were hunting the deer, and my light stayed on my camera evidently. So all of a sudden I'm getting pictures of rocks flying through the air. And at the very end, you see 2 rocks flying, and back there in that background, there's a Bigfoot face sitting right there looking at it like, would you get rid of the light so we can go kill this deer? Coincidentally, whenever we go back the next week, then Stephen finds one of the antlers placed at the tree where we had the camera, finds the other antler placed at the place what we call the candy store, where we bait our Snickers bars up. So very, very interesting story there. But like you say, man, they're going to throw things. They want it out of there. They're going to find ways to. They're going to find their own ways to take care of. They're going to remedy that situation. They got their own ways of sheriff, and that's a promise.
I just thought that was hilarious. The only place the camera could see him is where he had to pop out in the open to fling the log to smash the camera.
And I've had a friend who lives down there in Australia, and he's been some of the things he's found. And the yowie, I think I watched a show the other day there on something called The Proof Is Out There, and they had a shot there from a FLIR, and it appears to be yowie from down there in Australia. And they're 2 giant creatures. You see the body shapes, and they look to be what I would certainly have no problem disbelieving as being yowie in there. And so they're claiming it's the greatest footage since the Patterson footage. It's yet to be seen, but that's when you see something other like that. How did they get in Australia? I have no idea. All I know is they're there. I've talked to a lot of people. Been very fortunate to have folks call me there after some of these shows that we've all done and say, hey man, we've got the yowie down here. And, I have no reason to doubt it. Australia's a wild continent.
Yeah. Well, they got the little people down there too, the Junjidi.
Yep.
Those are little short boogers that run around and cause trouble. They got several cryptids down there. They probably got Dingo Dude down there too. So instead of Dog
Yeah, I
Man.
said dog man.
But
Yeah.
anyway, let's get back to Daniel. Daniel, do you guys get any reports of Dogman or anything up there in Alaska?
Dogman is actually a pretty new phenomenon to me, and I actually was educated about that by William and Stephen, because I hadn't looked into it very much. I mean, I'd heard about it, but I have not heard any dogmen stories in Alaska myself. Yeah, I've only heard
I
that
don't
coming
think
up.
I've ever heard one either, so I was kind of wondering.
Yeah, haven't heard that, but I am going to start adding that to my conversations that I have with people, and bringing that up, and perhaps I might be able to find out some information on that. But so far, nothing.
Well, one thing that needs more looking into that's pretty well known amongst most of the Alaskan natives is the otter man, Kushtaka. And it would be nice to get somebody to do some damn research on that at least, and get a lot more of the native stories of what capabilities this thing's supposed to have. Because it sounds like they're a lot more terrified by the Kushtaka than they are standard hairy man or some of the other things that they think are running around.
Right. Probably in Alaska, as you know, I would say our most famous Bigfoot story is obviously Port Chatham. And that's the one that everybody asks about when you ask about Bigfoot up here. Somebody asked me about that just the other day here in Kotzebue. What about Port Chatham? That certainly is, I would say, our most famous Bigfoot story, and one that generates interest by other Alaskans.
Right. Well, the one house that's out there on the Kenai Peninsula that Scotty and Rob Roy went and checked out for a few days, that's not all that far from Port Chatham, which had them a little bit alarmed when they were out there. It's like, geez, I hope it isn't the Dantinak, and you get these killer damn Bigfoot running around up here that are going to go after us or something. But the worst the ones in that area did was growl at one of them and throw rocks at their boat. That was it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to go to Port Chatham. It's a little bit difficult to get to, and you got to have connections if you want to get out there. But it's something I'm hoping to do maybe next summer.
I talked to a native up there that on a lark with her friends when they were in their later teens, and one of them had a boat. Hey, let's go to Port Chatham. That's supposed to be haunted.
Yeah.
She said they were there for about 3 hours before they figured out it was haunted, and haunted by what, and then they left.
Yeah.
They found some tracks and they went, okay, we know what's haunting this place. Time to go.
An Alaska Native gentleman recently told me about a cabin that was at the Brooks Range, and he told me that this cabin is an abandoned cabin that is haunted, and if you enter it, regardless of the amount of daylight outside, entering this cabin, it's pitch black inside. And so he told me that his people are especially afraid of this abandoned cabin in the Brooks Range. But there's some absolutely fascinating stories and accounts of from our First Nations people up here regarding cryptids and hauntings and things like that.
Oh, yeah. I get to hear some every so often. Scotty sent me one from, except for the outline, they're a human. And as he gets closer to him, the guy turns around to look at him, and he doesn't have any eyes, and most of his face is gone from like decay, like decades of frostbite or something. And just looks at him, and this like freaked him out really bad. He said, whatever this was, it wasn't alive, but it was standing out there looking at me, and
Wow.
without eyes.
There's so many
Very, very disturbing drawing that he sent of it too.
There's so many people comes up missing in Alaska. We tend to dismiss it down here. Down here, the closest thing we got is the Bermuda Triangle, man. Well, like I said, up there around the Great Lakes, the Great Lake Triangle has more people that come up missing in that, and then Alaska Triangle has more people come up missing than both of those other two there. So things, that we take for granted because we're not right there with it. All of a sudden you start researching, like, good grief, man. The lady up there talking about the thing being haunted. Yeah, when you're up there around those Bigfoot that are, around the cannery up there, that site right there, you're going to be the next ghost that's haunting the place, because those things, if you've read the stories, were really aggressive, and they actually had to have people that were standing guard while these people worked, and even then, that didn't get the job done. And so the whole community just shut down. There was I'm sure some of the folks there that are listen to it there, but there was actually a show that came out there about the Bigfoot there, and Chatham and everything else like that. And whether or not it was entertainment, I'm sure there was a lot of fact base into it too. But they're trying to go back and see if it's actually inhabitable again. And so far, from what I've seen from these guys right there, what they discovered from watching the series, I don't think it's going to be, because those beings are that much protective of their area. And if you've been around, you'll see that when they want you out of their area, you're going to get gone. They've got ways of getting you out of there. Most of the time, thank goodness, they're not aggressive down here like what they were there at Chatham, they just ate you, ripped your heads off, and threw your arms and heads into the lagoon right there. Down here, they'll tend to throw rocks at you, they'll growl at you, they'll chase you, but anytime they can catch you, and they can, but they tend to back off and just let you get out of the area. And most people are smart enough not to go back. Then certain other people that have on skeeter hats and werewolf shirts tend to go back, and we tend to learn.
As I understand it, the whole beginning of the thing, it was just, started out kind of slow. People would go out into the woods and, no, I'm going to go moose hunting or something, and then they wouldn't come back.
Right.
And this happened a few times. And then they started coming back in pieces, floating down river through town.
Right.
And then they started getting, like, they find the guy out in the woods with his head bashed in with some, 400-pound piece of equipment that something bashed him in the head with or something. And it just kind of escalated to the point where they just moved the whole town. And that's not bears. Ladies and gentlemen, Alaskans know how to kill bears. There is not a bear in Alaska that could chase away a whole town. Sorry, none. Alaskans are heavily armed and know how to blast bears.
You're exactly right. Daniel was showing me some photos today of some of the native peoples up there that are actually either going after a whale or else with walruses and seals and things like that. Like I said, they know how to kill those things. Whenever you get to something that kills you and it doesn't even require, I think it just used a club on some of those people just for the heck of it, but it doesn't require. They're being pulled apart. Their bodies are being pulled apart piece by piece and thrown into the river. They weren't using axes to cut those off. They're just being pulled apart. And so that's one of those things that I've had 2, possibly 3, would have had 3 very violent encounters down here, but I was very lucky to be able to get away with only the 2 that I had there, but was still able to get back home. But I couldn't imagine that right there going to Chatham. I see that right there. As soon as they started that and I heard the first Bigfoot call, they could start rolling the credits, man, because you're going to see me doing this number right.
William's going to be on his jet ski going out the harbor.
He would. Alaska Sasquatch certainly do have a reputation for being more aggressive than those in the lower 48. So that's a real thing.
Yeah, Robin's viewed some of the areas with some of them up there too, and that's the same thing she says. They're more wild, they're more savage, they have less patience with humans. In some areas, they won't put up with you at all. If you're there, they'll just squish you. Exactly. So, you got to be really careful up there if you're going to try and do Bigfoot research.
Right. She's actually been very helpful with me and helping me learn more about Sasquatch in Alaska.
Not to say that it isn't possible. I mean, there's areas here in Montana that are very dangerous to go into because the Sasquatch there do not want you there. They don't care who you are. And then there's other ones where they're really discriminating. Certain people will let you go in there, and other ones like Todd Standing, they just chase them right out again. So
You were telling me, that's where up there where you live at is where the Teddy Roosevelt encounter that he told about was over there.
Yeah, that's right over on the other side of the Bitterroot Mountain Range for me is where the Bauman Jessup encounter that Teddy Roosevelt so famously recounted in his book, The Wilderness Hunter, actually occurred. And that area is known for having really crabby Bigfoot in there. Jessup wasn't the only guy that got killed in there. Bloody Dick and a couple other people got killed in that area, all within a few years of each other. And Kevin Lang talks about when he'd go over there and drive his motorbike over on the edge of the Bitterroot Mountains, and the Bigfoot will all fling rocks at him and try and nail them, because they just don't like putting up with humans. So, and I don't do any research in that area. Kelly Shaw, who covers the whole Rocky Mountain range, won't do research in that area south of there because of the bad reputation. And, there's certain areas in Montana where you got to worry about the bears too. The bears are really bad. So it's not worth going in there to do Bigfoot research. You have to worry about 1,000-pound grizzlies.
Yeah, I've had a very negative bear encounter up in Alaska before, and I do not care to repeat that experience.
No, I had when I was a kid, I lived in northern Minnesota, and I had a 720-pound black bear try and stalk and kill me twice. The only reason I know how big he is because he got nailed by a state patrolman on his way to a emergency call. Bear ran across the road, got splashed by the car, which splashed the car, and they had the jaws of life the state patrolman out. He was in bad shape, had one of his arms broken. I think both of his legs were broken. But anyway, this thing, he followed me into the garage. I went into the garage, and we had kittens up in the attic, and I crawled up into the attic to check and see how the kittens were. And I heard they're shuffling, and I looked down, and here's this damn gigantic bear walking around down below me looking to see where I went. So after about 5 minutes or so, he goes back out the door again. And I sat up there suspecting that he hadn't cleared the area. And sure enough, about 5 minutes later, he came back in the garage again. And he repeated this for almost a half an hour, going out for a little while, waiting, coming back in the garage again. Meanwhile, the kittens are meowing. I'm trying to halfway suffocate them to shut them up so they don't make any noise. Because this bear is big enough, he could stand up and grab me.
Sure.
On his hind legs. And just to let you know how big he is, you know how wide a garage door is. Well, a couple times when he was going in and out, he paused right in the garage door and turned around, and his butt and his nose were almost scraping both sides when he turned around the garage door. He left a front footprint in the hard-packed gravel on the driveway that was 7.5 inches across. So this is really, and he's old. You could distinguish him from other bears, which is why we know for sure when he got smeared, because they had a picture of him in the newspaper. He had gray rings around his eyes, and he had a big diamond-shaped gray patch from the top of his forehead going all the way down to his nose. So he was really obvious. You could tell from other bears. Now, I've had actually some bears too. Where I was living was about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the county dump. So all the bears would go through all the time. They try and raid our trash cans. They're around the yard and stuff. So, for me to mistake a bear for Bigfoot or vice versa is pretty much impossible. I've seen bears. I've eaten bears. I've hunted bears.
I've got one up there on my area in Ground Zero I was telling Daniel about, and I told a lady the other day, and she goes, "Oh, Will," she goes, "you know that you would like to have a bear skin rug," and I said, "Yeah, but I don't want the bear to still be in it and me be inside the bear." So if that bear, if he doesn't leave me alone, that bear is going to have a bad encounter, I promise you, and I'll just have to deal with what I have to deal with. But I try to be, I don't kill something unless I can eat it, but on something other like that right there, a black bear tends to kill more people than a grizzly bear do. Folks think that it just because we.
Yeah, they do. Grizzlies will mug you because you startle them or something. They don't know you're there, or if they got cubs. And black bears will actually get stupid ideas like, "I'm going to just follow this human and kill him and eat him," like that big son of a bitch was doing when he was following me into the garage there.
Yep. So I'd much rather deal with this Sasquatch and the Bigfoot than I would with the bears on that right there. And like you say up there, I think the Bigfoot tend to, when they have their babies, tend to eliminate some of those problem grizzly bears. When they're trying to eat their young.
Well, good example, you were up in my research area, and I always tell you they control that valley completely. They don't allow any predators in there. We've been going up there for almost 8 years now, and we haven't found a predator track in there yet. And I took you over to that hillside and forced you to make that horrible walk up that hillside where all the kids hang out so you could get up to the playground. And then you got out, what, like 30 plus tracks that you found along that hillside all the way up to the top. And his camera went out on him, Daniel, so he didn't get any of the pictures of it.
Exactly.
So just to prove that it wasn't an anomaly, when I was up there this year with Eric, I took him up to the same place. And this time I walked along with the camera and went, there's a track, there's a track, there's a track, there's a track.
Yeah.
Same place that William was walking through the year before. Here it is a year later, and there's still tons of their tracks all over the place up there.
You know, and then one reason that my camera could have gone out, I don't know, but me being the newcomer up there, they will zap your cameras. They can do that, folks. Don't think they can't, man. I've had more trouble with my cameras when Bigfoot is around. I had one with one of these new $5,000 electronic clipboards at UPS down around the Louisiana line, and there was a Bigfoot right there real close to a metal bridge. And whenever I would stop to go over, and then I stopped and started doing some tree knocking, all of a sudden this lithium battery on my $5,000 electronic clipboard goes out. So the next day I go, I stop. Of course, I'm going to try to get the Bigfoot to knock again. Sure enough, when I do, he goes ahead and zaps my doggone clipboard. So this happens. So finally I have a supervisor ride with me who's just a real stinker. And he's like, well, this better not happen again. So he takes an extra, I told him, take you an extra clipboard because it's going to happen. You know, like I said, you've got the battery and it's electronics. At the time, it was the, you know, the best electronics there was out there. Well, anyway, I had the lady fix me up 2 extra boards. So my first one goes down. And so he was kind of making his little threatenings. I said, well, turn your board on. Let's see what happens to yours. He turns his board on. This Bigfoot zaps his board. So the battery goes down. So I turned on one more board. I said, just so you'll know that I'm not lying to you. I turned on that board. That board goes out within 2 minutes. I didn't turn the other one on until I had left. But they can actually mess with your cameras. They can actually drain your batteries. You hear these stories about the electronic equipment losing all their power. Folks, that's not a joke. I thought it was a joke too. It's not.
No.
They have that ability. I don't know how they have it, but just like, you know, you have the electric eel or whatever that has the electrical charge in it, just like I don't understand it. They have a way of doing things to your equipment. And that may have been why, you know, I thought about why my camera went down, because I was a new kid on the block. They were used to you, and, you know, they didn't if they zapped your camera. And then too, it could have been.
Now, if they erase something off my camera, I'm in a high security area. They've only done that 3 times. And all 3 clips were in the same high security area at the same time. And they didn't, there's like a break in numbers on the camera, you know, when it goes from like 17 to 21, all of a sudden there's nothing in between. And you're like, how does that happen?
Right. Exactly.
Papa Craig, when he was up here, apparently they had an attitude with him because they zapped him the morning of the first night that he was here. And then they screwed with him the whole weekend. He estimates close to over an hour of video and probably several dozen, if not 100 pictures, because I was actually watching him filming video clips where he had found tracks and stuff, and he's sitting there, you know, narrating and filming what he's found and stuff, and I'm like, this is all cool. Well, you know, the guy had used this camera for a long time before he came up here, and he used it for a long time since then, and it's never had any problems. Right. And yet out of everything that he filmed here, he got 1 minute of video and 4 pictures.
And that's what,
and everything else was like black screen,
right,
or, you know, static snowball fight, or lines across the screen, or,
you know. And when they don't like you, I showed Daniel where I had actually taken my preacher's son, who's as good a kid as there is, and I wanted him to experience, you know, find some Bigfoot tracks and stuff. So I actually found a track, walked him over towards it so he could find it himself. And man, he was all excited. We went up there to a different place there where we had some cameras. Well, I come back about 2 days later there, and I didn't bring him with me. He wanted to go, but he had to go to school. I go back up there, and they had pushed all the trees across the trails everywhere that he and I had been to. For some reason, they didn't like him. And I mean, I got the message real quick. Don't bring him back here. I mean, it wasn't just accidental destruction of the wind blowing. So I mean, it was placed with intent and malice, like, don't bring him back here again. So he's like, well, when are we going back? I'm like, well, I'm not sure. We'll just have to look and see. I didn't want to say, man, they don't want you back, because they, you know, their attitude showed me that they weren't happy with you for whatever reason. So anyway, they do. There's people, I think, that they recognize that way, and then sometimes some of the reasons I'm able to get some of the pictures I have, because we've stayed in the area and they know that I'm not out to hurt them. I think they can, kind of like a dog, they can interpret your body language. and whether you mean them any harm or whether you don't, even though they've seen me armed up there and they haven't, made any kind of effort to harm or anything like that. So it's funny, like I said about Papa T, for some reason there, when they get their mind made up, I don't know what it's going to take to change it, but I'm going to do everything I can if it ever comes to it.
Well, Ashton, another example, he's come up there, that research area, a lot of times, and I started noticing this pattern. Like as soon as he would leave, they'd show up and start being noisy.
Right.
Okay, so then finally I had Robin who could communicate with him and let me know what was going on. And through Robin, they actually told me, hey, but don't quit bringing that one guy. Well, which one guy? Well, the one that looks like this, because they don't know anybody's name. So they had to give me a description. When only one guy on my team that looks like that. So I had to tell Ashton, well, apparently these guys up here don't like you. So, I'll keep doing Bigfoot research with you everywhere else, but you can't go to that one area because they don't like you for some reason. Well, now he was with me this spring over at Coloma, the ghost town over there. And Robin was talking to those ones and stuff. They don't have any problem with him at all.
Right.
He's all good as far as they're concerned, But this other group are like, no, screw that guy. Don't bring him with. Okay, well, they're all individuals like we are apparently. So
I was very concerned when me and Daniel went to ground zero, because as he said, as soon as we broke, quote, the barrier, man, it was electric. I mean, truly almost like you had an electric field going through there, because all of a sudden my shoulders, my muscles, my neck were vibrating and stuff like that, and they were hitting us with with infrasound there. And he goes, man, I can feel it. And I said, I can feel it too. And I'm like, but they they accepted him just great. But at first I was very concerned, like, oh man, surely they're not surely they're not going to be violent towards us or anything else like that. But they do. They are able to interpret your intention, I think, and I think sometimes they zap you just to play with you. But other than that, they also like, hey, you don't need to bring these people back again. And I've experienced that so far. I think a lot of the key to mine and Stephen's research is because we have spent so much time up there. They're like, well, these guys aren't going to hurt us, and they're not going to bring anybody up there that's going to hurt us. So like you say, they're a very, very intelligent creature and being, whatever you want to call them, of people. They're very, very intelligent, and in their element, they're the expert in their element, in their environment, just like we are in ours. And there's no comparison to what
we're just the dumbass doddering rookies when we're out in the woods. We don't know what the hell's going on. It's like a bunch of 4-year-olds running around the woods trying to play hide and seek with an Army Ranger in a ghillie suit. Yeah, good luck with that.
That's right.
With ground zero, I can tell you that anybody who you'd have to be crazy if somebody was going to hoax something back there. Having to deal with those snakes in that brush. I mean, they would have to be to even attempt it.
Well, same thing here in Montana or Alaska. Think about it, Daniel. In our 2 states, everybody's armed to the teeth. And if they see something weird they're not sure of, they're probably going to blast it. So if you wear a Bigfoot suit like that guy found out a few years ago up here in Montana, a car will run you over.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and that's true.
The hogs as well. The hogs that we got up here, man, we got hogs that weigh truly 700-800 pounds. Y'all heard the legend of Hogzilla. That's not just a legend, man. That's the truth. And we had one killed on our deer lease we had about 10 years ago, weighed 683 pounds. They took a tractor to lift him up. But when you got hogs like that, man, you don't stand a chance. But that's one reason Bigfoot can have the attitude he has, because one of the things he's going to eat, he's going to have to kill it and try to stay away from those razor sharp tusks and everything else too. So, so it's like Daniel says, it's when anybody that try to hoax something in there, you're not going to deal with the sounders of hogs that you have. You're not going to deal with the individual boars. You get you a female that has a litter of shoats behind her and see how bad that turns in a heart, in a heartbeat too. So it's not going to be something that's going to be hoaxed. We're 3 or 4 miles into the woods. The good thing about a hoax is you want somebody to be able to be hoaxed by it. And when you're that far in the woods, the chances of anybody finding it are slim and none. And then much less if you've been able to sit there and video it, it's just not going to happen. So the people who think that, I've invited them to come and they're all talk until it comes time to, okay, well, let's go then. And then about an hour or 4 before you go, or you get up there to meet them and they don't show up, or an hour before you get a phone call, man, I've got to go with my wife. We've got to go get some diapers at Walmart. Well, but is that for you? Is that for your baby? But whatever it is, that for whatever the reason is, they don't come back. And so it is. It's one of those things that the people, they want to try to ridicule you until it comes down to it. And once you've been there and you see it, and you're like, oh my gosh, because the chances of you getting out of there, if something like that should happen, the chance of you getting out are basically slim and none. So it's a thing that the people who want to cry hoax and all this other bull, it's not even a feasible explanation. It's so hot in there, you're not gonna have somebody in a ghillie suit, having to walk in there because you got so many stickers. It's going to tie you up in knots to where you can't walk. And then too, when it is, you're going to be so hot or something like that. So it's not even a feasible explanation. And then when you get in there and you actually experience it, and that's why I was glad for when Daniel got to come down, because man, they were just really active. It was like everything you could ask for. And I went up there about 3 or 4 times after he had gone, and like I said, got pictures of 4, or actually 5. There's 5 in one tree right there on the edge of the road there. And I mean, within 50 yards of the midline of the county roadway there, and you're just in there. They sit there, and something about them, whenever you take their picture, they're like that. These look like the Patty kind that have the helmet. And every time you get their picture, they're going to have their head over like that instead of being up like this. I don't know.
They don't want you to get a picture of their face. You're not supposed to get
it's a trait that they go through, and I've learned that with that, whatever that species is, that's one of their traits. Whereas the one.
Oh shit, William, we got several pictures of Kevin Lang got one. Robin's got one. I know a couple other people have got one, where they're like too far out in the open. They put their hand over their face. To hide their face. You can see the outline and you can see their hand.
Yep.
It's like, well, you're still there.
Right. Yeah.
But somehow that's like they're trained from the time they're little squatchlets or something, that if they cover their face up, you can't see their face, you won't notice that they're there. Peekaboo. Oh, you can't see me.
Kids do it at night whenever they think they hear something in their room. Pull the covers over their head. Well, that's going to make it go away.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, if I cover my face up, they can't see me because I can't see them. The best one is that one that Kevin caught in the tree, where there's a little one and then there's a bigger one behind it, and the bigger one's got its hand around the little one's face to break up the outline of the face, but you can still see everything from the nose up. So it didn't really work very well.
Man, the first one I saw there that was eating leaves, and he had that limb pulled down over his face and was just kind of peeping through those leaves. And then whenever he started standing up, first thing he did was just lift up that limb. Well, then when the limb gets to where it is, he keeps standing up. So you realize right then, like I said, if they got their eyes hid or something like that, they think they're totally hid. And if they didn't move, you would never see them. Some of them. So it's one of those real interesting traits that they have. They're a lot smarter than what people want to. If they do acknowledge them, they're a lot smarter than what people want to even give them credit by acknowledging them. And so, and that's one of those things I think that you and I have touched on. Like I said, we're their entertainment. If they get to know you, you get to see some things. Man, 2 years ago on March 25th, I walked up and got to Ground Zero, and I was driving down the road and I was trying to find tracks, and so I wasn't making any dust. And I was barely even moving along, and there was a real heavy wind covering all the noise. Well, man, when I finally get to where the picture I have of the female that's got the baby on her shoulder walking down, and I pull up there, I look to see if she's left any tracks. So I park my truck in the middle of the road just to keep it still running. I don't shut my door, and I walk down there to where I catch her tracks at all the time. I stand up on a little berm, and there's 2 7-footers that are walking down the edge of the wood line. And man, I'm just freaked out. I would give anything. I still had my cell phone sitting in my truck there charging to get as much charge as I could. And so I'm watching these 2 7-foot twins walk down there, and they're sitting there, and one of them actually takes and shoves the other one like 2 kids. And this is true. And so then the other one walks back, and they walk down side by side. Well, then finally, Stephen's about 5 minutes late, and they hear that big logging truck of his coming down through the big dually, and all of a sudden then they can see the dust. Well, man, they just kind of go into the woods right quick. And so when Stephen gets there, I'm just laughing and shaking my head. He goes, "Oh no." I said, "Oh yeah." And that's the second time that he's missed a Bigfoot sighting. He has to work, man. I know how it is, but I was there. So anyway, before we ever got off of Ground Zero that day, I had a camera that sends the pictures back through the airways there to your cell phone. And before he and I ever get halfway up the hill, I'm getting notices. So I look at my phone, and there's a Bigfoot there. It looks to be maybe about a 5-footer, and he's over there. We have staked out some Snickers bars, impaled them to the ground, and he's laying on the Snickers bar, and he's got the Snickers bar, and he turns and looks towards the camera. I mean, it's just the greatest pose you've ever seen. You know, we used to unwrap them, and now we don't even unwrap them because they're the worst litter bugs in the forest, man. They just take the candy bars and off they go, and you'll find out what trail, which is one thing that was really cool. Whereas when we were feeling them, but we weren't able to trail them as such. But once we started leaving there, we were able to find out which way they were going whenever they left. So that really helped us. Something that was accidental became something that we did then on purpose after that. So, okay, this is kind of telling us which trail they're using when they're leaving here, coming from the candy store.
Well, apparently these ones up here are too smart for that damn trick. You know, I've only been feeding them since this summer. But I go back to the same gifting spot the next time I'm up there leaving food, and every wrapper from every freaking thing that I left is right there. Everything.
Everything.
Empty bags that the apples were in, empty cereal bags, empty peanut butter jars, the lids from the peanut butter jars. Everything is still there, except for the food. That's all gone.
He said, y'all's peanut butter jar, he said you could see 2 fingers that had reached into the bottom of the peanut butter jar and pulled out the peanut butter.
Yeah, I've got that jar still. I got it here with me, and I'm going to get some video of the inside of it so everybody else can see that. Because, yeah, when I brought it back across the river, I showed it to Keith, and I went, what's this look like to you? And he goes, that looks like 2 giant fingers scooped out the peanut butter in there. It's unmistakable.
That's what he told me 2 weeks ago. He was very impressed. He said, I'm telling you what, he was the star of the movie of The Legend of Oggy Creek, Keith Crabtree. Like I said, as truthful and honest and a man of character as you're going to meet. And he said, if I would not have believed in Bigfoot when I went up there to Montana, he said, I would have whenever I came back. Again, the story you said about one tickling his feet, about the one he seen over there in camp, about the peanut butter jar that had the fingers in there. But to have those kind of encounters, you got to get out of you got to get off your couch, you got to get out of your recliner, and
yeah.
And,
well, luckily he had people like you that had actually survived a trip up here previously going, no, the ones up there won't kill you. They might play pranks on you and whistle at you a lot or push a tree over occasionally, but they won't kill you or anything.
When Daniel got here, COVID tried to get he and I, and we beat that. And man, thank goodness for his fortitude, man, because he came back after that, and came back here in October. Man, it was like I said, I hope it was one of the experiences of his lifetime. And then whenever he comes back, I think it'll be even better there because, the more you go, the more you learn, and then he was that picture that he got once he's got it there too. You want to get a chance to show it, and talk about it, and you see the face. The face is just clear as day, man. I mean, I can show it to people that, oh my gosh, and I've made just believer after believer after this one picture, not even having to show them the rest of them that I have on my phone. They're like, oh my gosh, so that looks exactly like what I would have a nightmare about. And I said, yeah, it does, so yeah. They're not, it's not pretty except to us Bigfoot researchers,
Well, some of them are fairly good looking, but most of them are kind of ugly. Or from our standpoint, maybe they think we're really ugly too. So we're at 1:30 here time-wise. Do we have videos and pictures and stuff that you sent along that we need to do set up for so people know what they are?
What about Daniel? Did you send your pictures to Duke?
I did. Our main picture, which is the face in the trees. He has that one. And one of the things I forgot to mention about that photo is that this photo was also used in a presentation at the Hocking Hills Bigfoot conference. So we were real proud of that, that it was used there. Right on.
Yeah, in Ohio there. And then also I had a picture there of a footprint I found on the Little River in Arkansas. And there was a big discrepancy here about what the experts who claim that Bigfoot tracks are all supposed to look like, and of one that we found there, and caused a big problem here between some friends at one time. But I've got the picture of one who has the track, the thumb is splayed like this right here, and then the other 3 fingers on the other side are like this right here. You can see the track. Well, then I found a picture of a type gorilla up there. Not to say that they're gorillas, nobody knows, but that looks more apish anyway. And I took it and put it together side by side. And if you took it, and I've got a double picture of it, and if you fold it over, they'll fit in perfectly just like that, and sent that to Marzulli. And I think he used that in his presentation as well to show that, hey, they're not all the same. We just
No.
don't know yet.
Well, and that's one thing that Lauren Coleman brought up years ago. He did a whole bunch of research down in Florida, and he was finding these other pungent tracks. They look like a gorilla or orangutan or chimpanzee foot because their foot looks like a hand. You got this widely divergent hallux that comes off the side so they can grasp with it. It's not really made for walking flat all the time like we do, but they can still walk around flat. So apparently the skunk apes down there have a foot that's built like that, and that's how you can tell their tracks from a standard, Sukelu, Sasquatch, Bigfoot type track.
Right.
So yeah, there are sub varieties too. Robin has pointed out that some of the ones up there in Nebraska, the Tonga, give from her perspective give off weird energy. Like some of them at least aren't pure blood Bigfoot. They're inbred with some other weird thing that we're not sure what it is. But so there's like hybrids and sub varieties and stuff running around. They're not all exactly the same, contrary to what some pseudo experts will tell you. The same pseudo experts that will tell you that there are no Bigfoot that leave tracks bigger than 18 inches and that they do not climb trees.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And that at any Bigfoot over 7.5 tall, the person's lying to you or it's a hoax. Not so. Like I said, I put that 10.5 foot tape measure on that Bigfoot this year. The day after Daniel left, was able to get my meter stick out. Or 2 days after Daniel left and went back up there. And like I said, 10.5 foot easy. That's exactly what it was, 10.5 foot. And you can
we had one when Sunny was here from Alaska, another Alaskan native. She came down, visited me in my research area. We had one step right out in the open, let her see him about 45 minutes before dark. And as soon as I realized what was happening, the shock wore off, and she said, "Huge Sasquatch right there." And I went, "Where?" And she goes, "Right over there." And I went, "Okay, well, I'm going to go over there with a stick. We'll measure how tall he was." And she goes, "He was just right there." And I went, "Okay, so you remember where he was standing then?" She's looking at me like, "You're crazy. He was just right there 3 minutes." And you're not even. I don't care, whatever. Walk over there with a stick. I'm standing in the craters that he left in the ground like he was a big boy. And I held the stick up, and then she starts going, "Oh my God, he was huge," because now I'm standing in the same spot, so she gets the perspective of the scale. And she goes higher, and I hold the stick up, and she goes right up there by that little broken branch. That's where the top of his head was. Okay, so how wide was he? Well, his shoulder was from that tree over to the next tree over on the other side of the trail. So then I brought the tape measure back, and I measured. He was 10'4", and he was 6 feet across the shoulders. So there you go. Eyewitness measured in exactly the same spot within minutes of the sighting. And he did a good job of hiding back. And he was probably standing right next to me, cloaked, when I was over there measuring. Because I don't know how the hell he managed to get out of there. There's a couple open areas. There's a couple little stands of trees, and then there's open areas in every direction. So it's like how he managed to get out of there that effectively, as big as he is, that fast. Again, their sneakiness is amazing.
Stephen and I have actually found trails that go up through the trees there, down there around ground zero, and they tend to be, most of those trails tend to be are signified by a marker, and then all of a sudden you're following your tracks, and all of a sudden the tracks, but you can see where the bark has gone off the tree. And when you do, and then you look up there and you see, look, what appear to be trails up in some of the trees like that. They can climb trees.
Oh, hell yeah.
They have no, there's no problem with that right there. And if you don't believe it, just look how easily, and I'm not, like I said, not saying they are, saying they aren't, but how easy some of those gorillas from Africa can climb a tree. Man, with one hand, they're pulling up 500 or 600 pounds. Well, man, you're talking about something to take a gorilla and swab the floor with him,
yeah, exactly.
So when you see something that's that strong, they can pull themselves up. Me and Reese down here at Smith Park, we had a father and a mother, and then all of a sudden, it looks like a mama had given birth, and then we would be following those tracks, and all of a sudden, we'd have the 3 tracks there, then the mama track and the baby track would disappear, and then daddy track goes on. The only thing you can figure is that it went up a tree right there, because there's a tree coincidentally placed right through there. So it's it's one of those things that we don't know yet, but what we do know is the special abilities that they have, that the good Lord gave them, that we don't have, that we don't necessarily need in our environment, but they need in theirs.
Yeah, they are the masters of stealth and camouflage. Absolutely amazing. Well, before we sign off here, anything else that you wanted to add, Daniel, since you're the guest, the new guest on the show tonight? Anything else you wanted to say?
Absolutely. So our team and our research, we always believe in always trying to break new ground in some way. And so on the next trip, we're going to be introducing our drones into our research. So we've acquired 2 new DJI drones that we're going to be using to take a better look at ground zero from the air. So I'm
Right on.
looking forward to that again. Started out with the four T's, but it's ending with the 5 T's of field research for us, which is tracks, trees, trails, time, and technology. And so always be willing to try new things in your research. Everything from even changing the types of food that you leave in the gifting areas.
Yep.
For me, I'm still trying to build my network up here in Alaska. The Bigfoot community can be rather challenging to break into. A lot of people are trying to protect their piece of rock. So,
Have you contacted the guy with the Subarctic Sasquatch channel on YouTube?
not as of yet.
He gets a lot of reports from the locals up there on things that happen and where, and if he can, he goes to the spot where it happened and, tells the story while he's sitting there, sort of thing. So he might be a really good guy to connect with up there.
Nice. I will definitely reach out then. For those of your viewers that are in Alaska and who have any interest in networking and maybe planning some research trips up here, you can reach me. You can send me an email at bigfootalaska49@gmail.com, or you can reach me on a Facebook page where I'm an admin called Sasquatch Expeditionary Group. I would love to hear from you, and it's all about networking and learning from each other. And our team doesn't take the critical approach that a lot of people unfortunately do in the Bigfoot community, where they're out there criticizing people and attacking people. Our goal is to prove the existence of this creature and to learn from each other and be cordial and polite in our discoveries. So I'm also planning in the coming years in addition to more research in Arkansas with my partners, William and Stephen, also planning some research in Ohio and Michigan in the coming year. I'm originally from Ohio and lived in Michigan, so I have networked with some people there that are interested. So if you're interested in that, please contact me as well. But thank you so much, Duke, for this opportunity to be on here with my partner and my mentor. And I appreciate that all that him and Stephen has taught me, and for your media platform that's bringing more attention to this phenomenon, this study.
Yep, it's reality. I was just joking with somebody the other day saying, the X-Files, I live that. That's my life.
Yeah.
An X-Files episode, that's what my life looks like, except substitute Bigfoot for UFOs. And as a matter of fact, where Fox Mulder has that picture of a UFO above his desk and it says, I want to believe, in my case, you substitute a picture of Bigfoot and the legend says, I wish this shit wasn't real.
Well, guys, I'm gonna tell you, when you get Daniel on your research team, Daniel's not out there trying to scope out your area so he can make the name for himself. He's like you and I are, Duke. It's not about us. It's about the creature and getting it classified and the observance and sharing that knowledge with other people. Everybody thinks they're going to get that $1 million picture. Trust me, the $1 million picture is not there. Even when you get the video, people are going to ridicule you and, oh, well, that's fake. Well, that's somebody in a suit or something.
Well, unless you get actual physical film, if you're trying to take it digitally, Bigfoot can just decide to make it go away, and then you don't get back with it anyway. Or they can make it go away after the fact. Stevie B found that out. Some other people I know found that out too. They altered one of my pieces of video. I showed it to 3 people when I got back here, and the next day we looked at it, and they had changed it. It was different. All 3 of us saw the original version. The next day, how'd this happen? It's different. There's a different background in there now.
Look at how much of my video just disappeared. I had those baby tracks up there from your nursery area up there, and all of a sudden they're gone for whatever reason, and so it's one of these deals that you and I have been trying to make it where people realize it's real. Like I said, Steve and I have taken Daniel in, and it wasn't because he didn't make a nuisance of himself. He's very respectful for mine and his research. There were years there that I wouldn't even listen to other podcasts because I wanted my research to be my own, and Stephen was the same way. But he's a very beneficial person to have, man. When he's reached out to you, he's not out to steal your area. That's what I told him, and I found out he's 100% genuine, just like you and I are, man. I've told you the truth. I've been doing you and I've been doing this together, what, 4 or 5 years, something or other like that. And I've tried to share pictures and stories here that are true. And when you see this right here, when you've got him, not just Daniel, any good researcher like that right there, man, don't try to close the doors because you think somebody's trying to get on your area. That's not beneficial to you or them, So,
Yeah.
so again, I'll give him my 100% recommendation, man, all the way from Arkansas, and I believe you'll give me yours, Duke. That if I say it's about him, he's very that good and going to be a benefit to our knowledge and the things that we learn. And I'm very happy to have his association down here. When y'all get to see the picture, whenever we do the show there of the picture there, and you'll see the Bigfoot standing in the tree, and then I went down and showed you the tree without the Bigfoot standing in the tree, and you're gonna say, oh my gosh, they're actually telling the truth. So that's it. I've really enjoyed this. I've been wanting to get up there. It's been a lot my fault because I've been sick. And then Daniel, his son has been sick as well. But we're finally getting to do this. We're going to get the rest of those stuff in there, and then I'm going to try to do a show with you here pretty soon. I've got some more pictures to send you. I sent you a few today there on email, but get the rest of those pictures that I've had there, and then some of the ones off my camera, and hopefully we'll have something to bring to you. It's going to be interesting, And one thing that it's Arkansas Bigfoot are never predictable. That's for sure, So
Nope, not any more than these ones are. But Daniel, if you ever decide you want to come down here and do some Bigfooting in Montana, come on down. I'll take you to my research area. I'm not worried about people stealing my research area because Bigfoot there will just squish them like bugs if they don't like them. So I'm not even kidding. William will tell you about the picture that I got on video. That one standing behind me is about 12 feet tall. He's got a head the size of a beach ball. His nose is the size of my head.
That's right.
If they don't like you, they'll just squish you. So I'm not worried about somebody going to my research area.
I will definitely take you up on that. Thank you so much.
Right on. I'm going to try and get William back up here again. I know Keith would like to come up. Maybe we can get everybody to kind of do a midsummer rendezvous next year when the weather's really nice because we're, fairly high up in the mountains. So as William will find out, if you show up later in the year, you're going to get snowed on at night. So you might want to be here during the summer.
Yeah.
But man, I appreciate you having me on too, Duke. Man, I always enjoy getting on the show. We have so many interesting things. You and I have got to meet face to face. We have that trust in each other that what we're telling you is true, and there's no reason for either of us to doubt it. And the things we've been through, we've lived some similar lifestyles, and this is by far of all the things you and I have lived, man. This is by far the most interesting and the most fun. And to be able to take and share it with some of the folks that we have here. On your program that are listening, man. I appreciate them for that too, man. Like I said, and our service people and our veterans who've done what they've done so that we can do this, man. I can't go without thanking them for sure too, man, because that runs deep to me, man, all the way it makes my blood boil when somebody criticizes our military and our first responders, because like I said, without them we don't do what we do, and that means a lot, and I want to thank them as well, and then thank you for having me on here and Daniel as well.
A little shout out to James McDivitt, age 93, just died the other day.
Yeah.
NASA astronaut, hero, living legend. No, not exactly living anymore, but yeah, there's some really amazing people out there, and that was a good example. He was from the early days of the whole Apollo program and everything, where you were like really risking your butt going up in any of those things. Some of those guys didn't make it up into the air. The things just blew up on the launch pad and took the astronauts with them, So that was the days of extremely ballsy space pioneers, and he is a true hero. And everybody, please think about him and say some prayers for him. Hopefully he's up in heaven getting some space reports from God right now. Find out about them aliens. But anyway, everybody, thanks for watching the show. Hope you enjoyed it. And William, thanks for being on the show again, as you have done so many times in the past. Daniel, thanks for being on the show for the first time. Definitely looking forward to having you back again. I'm sure you're going to do some really good research up there. Before we go, do you know Beans Baxter? I think he's up there in Alaska, or he was.
I have exchanged one email with him. I'm waiting for him to write me back. So far, he hasn't. I know he's pretty busy, but I'm hoping to hear from him again.
Yeah, I know he's doing some stuff down here and with Northwest Expeditions. What's his name? Stephen. Brain's not working right now. Sorry, folks. Anyway, yeah, he's been down in the Idaho and Washington State area and stuff, hopping on to those guys too. So I didn't know if he was still up there or not. But otherwise, I know he's always interested in doing research up there in Alaska. So there'd be another person to get a hold of.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of rack my brain and think of all the Alaskans that I know of that are doing things up there, and I'll throw them all in your direction.
Copy that. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody else, you know the drill, so I'm not going to repeat it in advance, but make sure that when you're out there wandering around in the woods, bring a compass with. If you don't know how to do anything by dead reckoning, that may be the only thing that saves your life.
Right.
So bring your compass with you. It's always important. Find your way back out again.
Kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puck, would you? And for God's sake, whatever you do not hug the Wookiee.